read the books and you've seen the movies. You've studied the legends and lore of all the great leaders, the ones who rise to the moment. You know the type. The leader who's cool as a cucumber when chaos ensues and the stuff hits the fan. It's pretty inspirational, isn't it? To just show up and save the day. No kidding hero stuff. That may sell movie tickets and it may make for a great book, but that's not the whole story. Most leaders don't magically appear during adversity, whether they successfully meet the occasion or not. And that's rarely an in-the-moment thing. Whether or not they meet the occasion is determined long before the adversity shows up. Because adversity doesn't just announce itself. It appears suddenly, sometimes quietly through a missed signal, an overconfident plan, or a relationship under strain, and at other times, it shows up with a bang, both figuratively and literally.
Mm-hmm.
Today isn't a show about surviving the storm when it hits. This is going to be a conversation about how leaders who built their keel before the waves came are able to survive the storm. Because the question isn't if adversity will come, it's whether you're actually ready when it does.
Are you ready when adversity comes quietly through a missed signal and overconfident plan? That really struck. The amount of stress that people are experiencing these days, the elevated level of performance that we're all really expecting ourselves and each other to create. Adversity is more likely than ever. And I love how you said, not if it comes, but when.
This is going to be an exploration where we help the listener really tap into the idea that proper prior planning prevents piss poor performance, right? It's the 7 Ps operationalized. And then how do you do that for yourself? How do you do it for your team? What can you do to increase your likelihood of success? Because just assuming you're going to rise to the moment, maybe you will, maybe you won't. Why not set yourself up for success?
You're not always going to have the perfect awareness of what's coming, or even if you have perfect awareness of what's coming, you're not always going to have the perfect response. But the more we can practice those muscles of not only preparing for adversity, but kind of embracing it and looking for the opportunities in the moment, the more successful we're going to be. So I think we should get started on, guess what episode number this is?
That many.
Episode 10.
Let's go.
Thanks to the folks for sticking with us and going on this journey. I'm more excited than ever to be here on Imperfect, Better After Broken, the show where we celebrate the scars, the cracks, and the stories that make us stronger. I am Susan Hendrich.
And I'm Jeff Servello.
Episode 10, let's bring it to life. Tell me more about adversity in your mind.
When I first started envisioning adversity, I think of very catastrophic moments. Splinters flying, flames, cannonballs, something out of Pirates of the Caribbean, very, Horatio Hornblower kind of stuff. I mean, maybe that's a function of my naval background. Maybe it's a function of the books that I read when I'm not reading about psychology and human performance. Most of us think of adversity as this catastrophic event that we're going to face. Big stuff. How much time do we spend on the big stuff at the detriment of not thinking about the little things? But the little things add up after a while. Adversity is those things that challenge your ability to successfully function or tax and stress your team in a way that pulls them off target.
Adversity comes in all flavors and colors. The accumulation over time of smaller pressures or smaller frustrations, those are the ones that might go undetected, and each by itself may not present so much of a challenge, but we all know that stress is an accumulative process, and it can be more sneaky, adding up over time. Small things like environmental things in the office, a loud buzzing noise, a lack of cohesion among the team because there's unclear direction from leadership, or something that you haven't addressed personally for yourself that still has a voice. Do you have any examples of adversity that you have witnessed?
Too many to recount. A deployment being extended unexpectedly. We were on our way home and we were just about to enter the Red Sea, and then the ship turned around and now we're looking at another 2 or 3 months. It was very demoralizing for folks. A piece of equipment that you needed to conduct a critical part of the mission breaks. Now, all of a sudden, it's how do we make this work? How do we remain functioning? I saw it when I was in the manufacturing world where we had a piece of equipment that had a 95% reliability. So they stopped ordering all the spare parts. And then when we got to the 5%, it was like, where's the stuff? Well, it hasn't broken 2 years, so we haven't ordered it in a while. So these things that pop up and throw you off target.
When the home front has stress in it. For example, we just passed tax day. People, that's a burden on many of us, taking the time out to gather the materials and do all the right things. And is this going to satisfy the requirements, et cetera? If you have other things going on, even good things can create an adverse impact as you're studying for a graduate school degree, or if you're looking to certify in a new program. That kind of pressure takes away some of the discretionary time that we have, and therefore creates less tolerance, if you will, both literal tolerance off of the time frame, but also less tolerance from a mood and frustration capability perspective.
You hear about all those people who win the lottery who then they think they found this windfall, and then all of a sudden their lives get tossed into just this turbulent time, and then most of them end up worse than they started.
I would imagine that if only I had more money, if only I had more time, if only I had the right relationship, if only I had the promotion or the right job. And that kind of delayed joy or delayed embracing of the present moment is a setup for frustration, because ask anybody who achieves the thing or reaches the goal or obtains the material item, we're on to the next thing that we're either craving. It rarely results that those achievements of moments solve the sense of well-being. That sense of well-being comes from within. What happens to you as a leader when you know something that's coming for your team, but you can't yet bring that into light for a variety of reasons, and you are spending time with the team and you hear them frustrated or upset about certain things, and you're thinking, oh boy, the other things are coming as well. And how do you deal with that when you have to have information that you can't yet share?
That is so challenging. It is very inauthentic if you're a person who shows up and tries to be honest with your feelings and your rationale for stuff when you feel like you're holding back. Whether the thing you're holding back is going to have a net positive or net negative effect, it changes how you interact with folks, and it builds barriers and it builds walls, which is toxic and corrosive for a team. And no matter how good you are at hiding it, I think people sense that, hey, they're holding back, they're pulling back a little bit. What's going on? And then, as we've talked about before, we're natural storytellers. So then what then is the story that I start to tell myself? Susan normally is very transparent. And when I asked her about the thing, she changed this subject and went on to this other topic that's not at all related. Why is she ignoring me? Or why is she pulling back? Or why did our normal meeting get canceled? It starts to become this corrosive element that erodes trust and really can be toxic.
A few weeks ago, you mentioned that the way you lead is to say to your team, I'm going to tell you what I am able to the degree that I know it and I'm able to share. And if I'm not able to share, I'm going to tell you. That changed how I looked at partnering with teams that I support. It's a real kind of values clash when you have information, but it's not appropriate to share it. You're not able to share it, but at the same time, you want to set your team up for success. So I tried that with my teammates, and I found that my shoulders dropped a bit, and my sense of alignment with my personal values and authenticity really was restored. I still couldn't share, a particular piece of information, which ultimately did come out, but it wasn't my news to share. I felt more aligned with my team. So I appreciate that moment. You gave me a tip for handling adversity in a way that still upholds your own integrity and ethics.
I'm glad you found that useful. The alignment to values, I think, is really important as a leader, and especially as you're looking at what can you do to be prepared on an individual basis before adversity hits. I think identifying your values is probably step one. What is it
Mm.
you believe in? What's your leadership brand, right?
Yes.
So who am I? What do I want to espouse? What's the effect I want to have on the people around me? And being able to assess whether you're in alignment or not with that, I think is a real critical first step.
Knowing your values allows you to live into your values, and it also allows you to evaluate incoming stimuli and make decisions about how you want to handle things. Great leadership is revealed, not built. You don't have to wait for a crisis to be stronger. I really appreciate that notion. It has helped me to focus on being there and of service to my teammates. My own emotional regulation is important because people watch how you respond to adversity in a situation, and that response can be contagious.
That energy where you are finding joy and value in setting other people up for success and watching them grow and shine, which is the essence of true leadership. That ability to create the conditions for people to thrive. What better time to do it before adversity? I have bookshelves behind me full of books about the Battle of Leyte Gulf, the battles at Guadalcanal, trench warfare in World War I, World War II, things where the least likely people step up in times of crisis. Kirk Lippold, who is the CEO of USS Cole, I became acquaintances with him before I took command of my second ship. And he would tell a story of after the Cole was bombed, one of the most impactful people on board in helping to fight the casualties that arrived was a young man who had gone to captain's mast, so kind of on board court, if you will, and had gotten in trouble, and who most people had thought of as not a good sailor, not somebody who was a team player. And when the stuff hit the fan, that person stepped up, which is wonderful. But that's not something you can count on. You can't predict. And his point is, you can't predict who is going to step up and who is going to shut down in times of crisis. But you can, in the moment leading up to adversity, work on building cohesion among your team, which will unite them, help them find commitment in the face of adversity, and really work on how do we collaborate and support each other on a mutual level before the crisis comes, so that when the crisis comes, I have a vested interest in your success.
How many times as adults have we been tested on our readiness for adversity at the least convenient time? For example, if your home were to catch fire right now, do you know where your people, your pets, and your priceless, precious things are that would allow you to hurry up and pack up and get out of there to safety? Making deposits into your cohesion account as a team, or making deposits into your emergency readiness kits, you may never have to make a withdrawal on that. It's like great insurance. Hopefully you never have to make use of it, but boy, when you need it, you need it. I used to be part of major metropolitan response services. So basically, if there were a mass casualty or a biologic, a warfare attack, how would its people be able to respond? And my focus, of course, was from a mental health perspective, but also from a crisis response to just organize people in a civilian environment. And certainly, you know it much better in a military environment. Your ability to make decisions under adversity, we don't always practice in circumstances or contexts that truly prepare us for that unexpected environment. So when something happens in a city, for example, is the city prepared? In hurricane time, you've got the beeline, you've got I-95, you've got your escape routes and areas. Well, what happens if those are blocked? Then what? What are you going to do? Being prepared and then having the agility to adjust that preparation if you need to make a different kind of withdrawal. Don't wait until the difficult thing hits to build that trust and cohesion with your team.
Practicing and rehearsing in conditions that are going to be similar or as similar as you can, and made me think about football teams. We talk about football frequently, right? Teams practice the 2-minute drill. They practice that. They pipe noise in. They have actual officials on the field. They do it at inconvenient and unexpected times during the practice to try to stress folks so that they can replicate as near as possible. You fall to your lowest level of training when these things happen. And while we may not be able to do that in every business context, we can create conditions figure out what it's going to be like if I-95 is closed. We can tabletop it. We can talk about the decisions we can make. We can invest in the social cohesion that it'll take to communicate effectively. I mean, if your team cannot communicate effectively on a routine Monday morning meeting, why would you have any expectation whatsoever that under stress, under pressure, those channels of communication are going to be any more effective?
I like to think of myself as somebody who's calm under pressure, and I generally am, but we don't know whether that person who's going to step up on the ship or somebody that you think is going to be cool under pressure, but we don't know how the combination of triggers and environment and resources, how much sleep the person got the night before. A really sad moment in my life. It was so minor, but it was a poignant, sad moment. I was driving on A1A in Florida, and it was a really hot day, and I was driving Jeep, open top, and was almost out of gas. And if you ask my husband, he will shake his head, because this one will go and go. I can just, it's not really empty. It can just go a little bit more. And I hear my dad's voice in my head and Tom saying, you should never run your gas tank down. So I'm much better at it now. But this was, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, living in Florida, driving north on A1A, almost out of gas. And I thought I can make it to the next space. And of course, when you have only so many exits, you gotta time it to that. So I had pushed it too far, and I knew it. And I was trying to make it, and I didn't want to run the air conditioning, which you don't when you have the top down anyway, but I was trying to maximize being able to get there. And I was thinking, this is a logistical nightmare, and I'm going to pay the price for my stupidity here. Lo and behold, this turtle starts walking across, and I can see him pretty far up the road. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to swerve around. There's not too many other folks on the road, and few cars in traffic configured. I had to slow down and let this turtle cross. And I was sure that I had done that, but I was so stressed out about running out of gas that I didn't slow down in time, and I hit this baby turtle. And I'm sick about it to this day, because I love turtles in the first place, but my own poor planning in advance caused me to make a decision that wasn't ideal, that harmed, unfortunately, a box turtle crossing the road. Said I will never do that again. I'm recognizing that there were very real consequences, not just to myself being late or inconvenienced to be calling AAA or calling my husband out on a hot day, but a little life was lost that day. So how do we prepare for adversity so that, as James Clear says in Atomic Habits, you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your habits or your systems. Set up your habits and your systems so that you don't hurt baby turtles.
In those situations, I really love using pre-mortems and post-mortems.
Let's talk about those.
I think most of us are familiar with the post-mortem or after-action report. You kind of just did it there. I had X number of gallons. I was trying to go X number of miles. I did this, this, and this. This was the impact. This is how I could do it differently next time, right? It's after the fact, looking backwards, Monday morning quarterbacking, evaluating with a rearward facing lens what happened and where you could have done things different. This is best done when it's process focused and not at all interested in assessing blame. This process will fall apart if it is done to assess blame instead of identify how processes could be changed and modified. If it's done appropriately, it could be very innovative. You could say, hey, we thought this thing was going to work and it held up, and now we've discovered that it didn't, and now we need to create a new system, or we came up with something new. That's the post-mortem. After action report, looking back, what happened? What did we learn? How do we grow? The pre-mortem, we kind of did this a little bit on the show last week, where you said,
yes, we did.
Where do you want to be 2 years from now? And I love doing this with my teams, where it's like, okay, we're trying to do this thing for each of your areas. What's the most likely thing to go wrong? And what have we done or not done so far to mitigate that risk? And if we're sitting here then the 10 minutes after everything has gone to hell and failed, what are we talking about and why? And then it allows you to do a pre-look. What is the most likely? What is the most probable thing that we have or have not accounted for. And that's a great way to teach people to look ahead. It's a great leadership tool to be able to, instead of as the experienced person in the room saying, Susan, this is your risk. These are the shortfalls. You need to go do X, Y, and Z. It's a great chance for a leader to invite their teammates to grow and to lead and to think and to share. So I love the pre-mortem.
I especially appreciate your distinction that an after-action review or report or a post-mortem is not the same as a post-failure investigation. I was a clinical forensic psychologist for many years, so I did a lot of expert witness testimony in courts, and nobody invites me to get involved because they want to just see what happened or what's going on here. It's to assign, find, and prosecute blame. I get that, and that was part of the gig, and part of why I retired early from that, because I did not enjoy being part of assigning blame in that sense. But the postmortem effort to come together, postmortems are done as a team, and they are done with us on the same side of the table, looking at the problem and the issue and the event, as opposed to opposite contention between people. This is to attack the problem, not the people. Pre-mortems, I also love. Let's project out into the future. What could go wrong? That's the essence of a pre-mortem. What could go wrong? Wargaming is another excellent leadership tool that's used to say, okay, so what is likely to happen? What are the adversities that are likely to come at us, either with intent, from someone, from let's say a competitor in the marketplace, or by accident? Be prepared, and how would we respond in those situations, so that you're digging neural pathways of not only expecting adversity to come, but imagining yourself, and even better yet, immersing yourself in what a constructive response will be. I just did something that I've never done before. I want to share with you. You were describing post-mortem and pre-mortem. And I was thinking, you know what I realized we did this morning with my teammates and I asked a question at the beginning of our team meeting. What coping skill or tool are you using during this time of transition? Our team's facing some adversity, some transition. And I asked the question of my teammates, what tool are you using to thrive, not just survive? And what I realized is you were talking about post-mortem and pre-mortem. What we did this morning was mid-mortem, in the middle of the moment. So I Googled to see if anybody's ever said that before. So you heard it here first, a new term, mid-mortem. It's an opportunity to join your character in the movie and say, here we are in this stressful situation. What are your options?
I love that, right? Checking in with yourself midstream. Are the assumptions I made holding up?
Yes.
What signals do I need to be more attuned to, and how do I adjust? And both the pre-mortem, mid-mortem, and post-mortem, the ability to scrutinize progress without bias, I think, is important. There's a famous case study of a war game that took place in Newport, Rhode Island years ago. A Marine who led it, he destroyed the war game. He acted completely the way that they didn't think they would act. The people running the war game wanted to show that the big wigs wanted to show that they were right. It was almost like being like, I have infinite lives. I have infinite ammunition. That wouldn't happen. You wouldn't do this. It's like, no, in reality, those things would happen. Success is divided into thirds. 1/3 is luck and timing. 1/3 is other people's efforts and impacts. And 1/3 is you. And if you only account for your stuff, your portion of that, as the full pie instead of just 1/3, you're selling yourself and your team short, and you're introducing a 66% chance of failure. Now, that chance of failure may be still high, but ignoring luck and timing or other people's efforts doesn't reduce it at all. It leaves it at that full 66%.
My dad used to say, when my brother and I were growing up, the only thing certain is uncertainty.
Yes.
Embrace it. And what you just described with the Marine who kind of became, provided an unexpected response. That's the whole point, is to expect the unexpected, kind of lens on be prepared for what you're not prepared for. And to do that, here's a couple tips. Number one, find yourself a mantra that you can use, a mantra being a short phrase or sentence that anchors you or grounds you in what you do know, who you really are, what your values are. Mantra. So I'm okay, it's okay. Even though it wasn't in many moments, I would hear her saying that in meetings. I'm okay, it's okay. $1 million decision that went awry. I'm okay, it's okay. And it was a beautiful way for her not only to kind of self-soothe in that moment, but to create a signal to others. I'm activating my trauma drama response system here. What would your mantra be for when something goes wrong? What is the thing that you want to say? What kind of a mantra could you use to bring your system into regulation and to bring the moment into perspective? Here it is. Now it's time for me to activate my greatest muscles or my better angels, whoever's going to get there first to help me.
What's yours?
It's a single word and it's more symbolic than anything. It's water. My word is water, because A, I'm a Cancer, born in June, so everything's about water for me. But B, water represents in my life as the universal solvent. It breaks down all problems over time. Nothing will last over time in water, so all problems can pass through that. But it's also, we are made up primarily of water. Even when we have toxins that get in or broken bones or things that happen, it is the water and all of our wonderful cellular mechanisms that take over to solve any problems. How about you?
It is what it is.
Mm.
You can fight it, but it is what it is. It's going to happen. There's some subscripts there, but it is what it is. What do I do with this?
Yeah.
I can fight it. I can be upset, or I find a way to use it and move forward. That's me hitting my I believe button and moving on and trying to move forward. And then before things happen, I frequently find myself, if the worst thing happens when you least expect it, maybe you should expect it more often. And then I find myself then, okay, what aren't we accounting for? What could go wrong? What aren't people looking at? What assumptions are we making that's faulty? And being a sailor, you look for signs, right? You look for the clouds changing. You look for the barometer dropping. It's a gorgeous day. The most beautiful afternoons are generally right before the worst storms, right? Yes. So you're watching the signs. You're looking for the shifting sands. Times that leads to an overly negative outlook, which you have to guard against. As my son's pointed out, like, Dad, you're kind of a negative person. I'm like, well, it was my job to always what could go wrong and then try to mitigate it. And so I think that's a downside to be aware of. Open eyes, open heart, open mind. And then transferring that to other people and encouraging them. What are you seeing with an open mind, open heart, empowering them to make decisions that help keep things on track?
Data is power. And during times of uncertainty, we humans, if we want to stay in our frontal cortex, we need to be able to process information in a meaningful way to help us make decisions. So I go back to that Kodak case study of how Kodak handled it when the first digital camera was invented by Kodak, someone at Kodak in 1975. If you think about that, they saw the future coming, but they were too attached to the present. Their film margins were profitable. Their legacy identity was so powerful that comfort was intoxicating, and it kind of lulled them into a complacency, not just a complacency, but an aversion to change. The disruption wasn't the crisis. The crisis was the inability to adapt to that disruption that the digital camera represented. And I think there are lots of organizations and lots of teams within organizations that fail this way. They don't lose because the world changes. It's not the introduction of the printing press or of the new widget tool being used in the workplace. It's the refusal to examine, embrace, accept, or at least adjust to that change. What old success are you protecting that could become a future liability? What are you hanging on to? What glory day, if you will, or what invention that worked then are you hanging on to that could become a future liability if you cling too closely?
Yeah, what a great question. And I'll tell you, if you're unsure, if it is somehow preceded by or closely affiliated with the expression, well, that's the way we've always done it,
Oh,
you're probably right. If that's your metal detector, right? Like beep, 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 right? Or you're probably
yes.
on the right track. When people start protecting their rice bowl with the, well, this is the way we've always done it.
Hmm. Can you do that sound to get
The
that
beep, 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 beep.
beep?
Yeah, yeah, you're welcome. There you go, right?
Okay,
So,
I got it locked in now. But at least be willing to abandon your model, your schema, your 100% known truth long enough to evaluate it with a critical eye that
yeah.
allows you to have the best information that's available at the time.
I think that's great, right? Welcome the scrutiny to it. This is the way we've always done it. And I'm so certain of it. Let's test it. It's going to hold up. So let's test it. That mantra works. I'm going to test it again. I just used it now 2 weeks ago. I used it a year ago. You should welcome that scrutiny of your processes. You should be constantly looking to refine and smooth out and find the best possible process that sets you up for success. If success for you is guarding the way things have always been, my Encyclopedia Britannica is not the greatest source of information anymore. I now have this thing that connects me to all these computers and can synthesize all the different encyclopedias and the current journals. Maybe that's better. Maybe I need to refine my process.
Being bendy is the way that trees get to stand. The best architecture of these giant skyscrapers. If you look at the Burj Khalifa in Dubai, or these wonderful tall structures, every one of them is built to be able to have a certain amount of sway. There's a tolerance in, for which it will allow the building to withstand adversity of wind or shifting tectonic plates or earthquakes or things like that. That doesn't mean it's preparing to fall. It means it's allowing itself to bend it with that new data, new information, new stimuli.
Yeah, accounting for the environmental conditions that impact you. And if it
That's
didn't
it.
flex, it would break. And the power of knowledge, it is so wonderful. You have explicit knowledge and tacit knowledge and to know things off the top of your head, but AI is a great tool, but it doesn't replace the value of experience. That firefighter who's like, we need to get off this roof right now because they have 20 years of experience and they can feel the shifting of the fire and know what are the things that add value, what are the things that take away value, but not fully replacing all of them until the systems have been completely validated.
I want to challenge us for a minute on congruence when it comes to adversity. Authenticity, that is most definitely my leadership. My only way of leading is to show up as me, because I tried it the other way and it absolutely crashed and burned. Can leaders over index on being myself? Right? What if the version of yourself that's showing up is tired, cynical, reactive, impatient, avoidant? Should you just show up and this is me, accept me as I am? Or should we invest some intentionality on recognizing when our full authentic self might might be in misalignment with what the situation calls for? What do you do with that?
I think the answer is yes. I think both things have to happen. I think you need to show up as the best version of yourself. I think you need to have an awareness of who you are at your best and who you are at your worst. Because who you are at your worst is going to come out, especially in times of adversity. When I am tired, when I am stressed, I get snappy, sarcastic, very, very crass with people. When I keep that awareness in front of me is a great way for me to check myself. It's also great then when you have a team that is close and cares about each other, and when you've invested in social cohesion, not just task cohesion, but social cohesion before adversity, you have people who can say to you, like,
Yes,
hey, what are you doing?
you're in the wind.
Yeah. Pull your toga down, pal. Right? Having that, because you know what? You're going to have a toga on and the wind's going to blow. So maybe it's going to happen. So, but having people then who know you well enough and you've invested in the relationships well enough ahead of time that when it happens helps you. And two, then they're not so offended or put off. Oh my goodness, I can't believe that happened.
Because we have awareness that I'm doing that for your highest interest, for your best
Yeah.
interest. A bestie of mine, Kathiri, talks about something my mom said to me many times: "Fix your face," because I'd be like all scrunched up. You like just be aware that words matter, tone matters, and how we show up non-verbally matters. And hey,
Huge.
I need to excuse myself for a moment. I'm kind of in a space. You and I talked about this once. When you pick up the blueberry, sometimes that's because you need to just, you need to have a place to put something. And I so respect and love that about you, that you're recognizing that's a self-regulating opportunity.
We have a listener question from a listener in Toms River, New Jersey.
Hey.
And it says, my team is currently dealing with a lot of change related stress. Their stress is becoming my stress. As a result, I'm not helping them, nor am I showing up as the best version of myself. What can I do to ensure that these changes and the way I'm showing up don't destroy the team's magic?
Such a real phenomenon. I don't know about you, but I can say that's I've been that leader where
Yeah.
I feel myself starting to swirl along with my team that I'm there to support, and boy, can that cause an issue. So what do you do in that situation?
Yeah. Honesty as best as you can, right? This is what I know as I know it. In these situations, people want to feel agency, because when there is change or disruption, it's not the change we fear, it's the loss of comfort and the loss of agency that makes us uncomfortable. So being able then to put them in a position of, what do you recommend? What do you see? How do you think we should do these things? One, it helps you to continue to lead as the leader. You're continuing to enable other people's success and to develop them, which I think is positively important, and it puts them in a driver's seat. So you're giving them agency and you're continuing to lead, because the minute you stop promoting their success and their involvement, you stop leading and start solving, and then go from being a leader to just a manager. And so I think that for me is the best thing you do. And then you find the thing that connects them. How do we lean on each other together? You have two very different ideas. How do we make that work together? Lean on the things that you've built ahead of time, right? We talked about building that social cohesion ahead of time and building the task cohesion ahead of time. So we lean on those things when we're swirling what's in our frame of reference.
Envisioning just now taking your advice to find those connection points, defining shared meaning in the moment. When there is a crisis situation, or even just an accumulation of a lot of little adverse things happening, we can sometimes feel very alone and very disconnected or disenfranchised. In fact, that lowest form of energy is one where I'm that nihilism or victimhood of being separate from the world. Often, unfortunately, that is what happens when we have people who really make poor decisions about expressing themselves through violence. That is often when they feel most disconnected. So an antidote or a prophylactic way of dealing with that kind of disconnection is to make the connection, find shared meaning, our shared humanity, our shared foibles, our shared wish for things to go well. Find the thing when you have two people that you are trying to mediate among. For example, if you're a leader who has two folks that are not getting along, or there's a constant friction between the two. There is nothing that joins two opposing people together like a shared thing that they're fighting against. And not that you go pick a random person to be mad at, but find, what we're both here to fight against this disease that we're trying to treat, or we're both here to fight against our company really suffering during this transition time. So find that shared meaning. That's a powerful one, and I appreciate it. I have another example for our Toms River listener, and I'm grateful for that question. Recognizing that you are feeling pulled into the swirl, or that you are also having unhappy feelings or feelings of dissatisfaction, says something good about you already, because you recognizing that is a step toward handling, managing, and disconnecting from getting caught up in the swirl. So I see good things ahead for this individual. And it reminds me of some of the best advice I ever received on leadership. Our president came to my team meeting and we were, besides being starstruck, we were afforded an opportunity to ask questions. And one of my teammates asked the question, what would you recommend as a technique to be a great leader during times of change? And this is my organization at the time that I was leading was a sales organization. And the answer that was given to how do you lead during times of change is don't become the 11th rep. And I remember the answer coming out, and he just kind of let that sit out there for a moment. What do you mean, don't become the 11th rep? And what he meant by that was when you are responsible for 10 people and they are all frustrated, or they are all feeling disappointed or confused or overwhelmed, and they're complaining. First of all, there's a certain amount of complaining. We need to allow for the humanness of frustration and reaction to new information. But if they're complaining and that's becoming a swirl, and you get in there, yeah, I agree, it's the dumbest decision this company's ever made, and I can't believe it, I'm going to protect you and fight against the men, if you join into that swirl, you lose your ability to serve as a regulating, uplifting force in this moment. Don't become the 11th rep. That doesn't mean separate yourself from your team and talk down to them in any way. In fact, that would be the exact opposite of what you want to do. But use the good fortune of the position you're in to serve as a guiding light forward out of that negativity, out of that space. Very powerful. Hard to do, but a powerful way to reframe your mind.
Yeah, it's so powerful. I love that. And it makes me think back that maybe this adversity and the cracks and the strain it's putting on you and your team and your organization, maybe that's the preemptive challenge that's allowing you to shore up and make the repairs to put the gold fill in before a greater challenge comes. So maybe this challenge is giving you a chance to shore up for the next challenge. And so if you handle the adversity well, you use the time, in between peaks to build and to become cohesive, to embrace the flexibility, to build that in, to shore up alliances and practices and procedures, it gives you a chance to make it valuable, right? It's not a wasted thing or, oh my goodness, this was so terrible. This was the thing that prepared us for the next thing.
Use it is what you're saying. I love that.
Yep.
There, I have this saying of contain, don't catch.
Oh, I like that.
And so what is a container? It's something that holds space. Contain, I don't mean restrain people's emotions when they're frustrated, to not become the 11th rep. Not restrain or constrain, but contain. Become a vessel, a place where they can safely process those emotions, those frustrations, make meaning out of what's happening, and then start to move on. Rather than catching those emotions. Tom's River, I'm right there with you. It's real easy to catch, the contagion of frustration. I have to show you something, and I'm sad about it, but I'm actually really excited, and I learned this from Tom. So what I'm showing you right now, you will recognize this.
Oh,
This
yeah.
is my beautiful kintsugi bowl made with the kintsugi kit that was given to me by a dear person. And the other day, I can't even blame one of the cats. It was me. I'm dusting and cleaning off my typical routine that I do, and I hear this, and I thought, oh man, I missed it. It had blended into the navy blue of my table. And I was really upset, and I'm cursing. I'm on the floor. I'm like, I can't believe this. This is, such a special thing to me. I can't believe this happened. And Tom comes in and he goes, Susabelle, this is awesome. Like, this is, uncharacteristic of Tom to be sarcastic during a time when he can see I'm like really upset. And he's like, don't you see? You get to kintsugi your kintsugi. So I'm going to double kintsugi. I'm going to repair again this bowl that broke. What a cool way to use the moment to make ourselves better.
Absolutely. And for our listener in Tom's River, right? Use the magic to preserve the magic.
Yes.
Right?
Ooh.
The thing that makes your team great, tap into that and make it work. So Susan, as we get ready to wrap up, what's the one takeaway you would like our listener to have today as they go forward?
Comes right on the heels of the thing you just said about using the magic. Protect that, build the magic first. Create that trust, create that connection, create the cohesion, the teamness, the systemness of our belonging in advance during peacetime. Make deposits when you have money, so to speak. And then protect that magic on purpose. Be intentional about reconnecting to the connection, the humor, the trust, the pride, the momentum that you have. I think that being intentional about investing in and also being authentic about, hey, we are off kilter right now. How do we get back on an even keel, to go back to what you taught me earlier, and enlist the team to help you do that. Within the team is the magic. Go find it together and let them know that you need their help in restoring the the safety, the goodness, the happiness, the sense of well-being. How about you? What's yours?
I love it. So I'm going to channel this around the idea of use it. Okay. Think about the WWE. Stone Cold Steve Austin takes the Rock and he throws him into the rope. The Rock hits the rope, it holds him, and then it springboards him back out. And what does he do? He hits Stone Cold with a flying armbar. He took the challenge he was given, the constraint he was faced up against, and he used it to his advantage to turn the situation around. And wow. I think that, in my heart, I'm a Stone Cold guy, but be the Rock, use the ropes, use the things that you've been given, use the adversity the best you can, because it's not if it's going to happen, it's when it's going to happen. And so use the magic, use the challenge, kintsugi your kintsugi, and continue to build so that you're able to grow from each of these situations.
That's a gift and a great visual to take forward next time we're, facing something individually or as a team, to use the force of the ropes.
Absolutely.
Beautiful. This has been a fun conversation. I really have learned a lot, and I'm feeling better about kintsugiing my kintsugi.
Yeah, I'm excited to see that. So, well, awesome. Susan, thank you so much for episode 10. Here we are.
We did it. All right. All right. Remember, we want you to take the time to follow us on socials. Do a like, comment, give us a sign that you are out there fighting against adversity by pulling on your own magic. This has been Imperfect, Better After Broken. I'm Susan Hendrich.
And I'm Jeff Servello. Thanks for joining us here on Sandcastle Radio, America's hottest online variety and music station.
You're probably getting to know me more than you ever wanted to.
Are you kidding me? I love it. Well, let's keep going. It's fun.
Awesome. Hey, we didn't do anything. We didn't have any goofiness this time. We might not have any outtakes. Goodbye.
You're welcome.
I love it. I needed that. See you later.